The average home in the Greater Toronto Area is over $1 million, with detached homes at a high of $1.4 million. The average detached home in Metro Vancouver just peaked at over $1.9 million this June. Home ownership, it was one of the core aspirations of the middle class, but it's becoming apparent that in Canada, and especially in Canadian cities, home ownership is for the wealthy. What's driving this unaffordability? What laws are contributing to making homes in Canada and our major cities so out of reach? Here today to discuss these questions are three experts: post-media journalist Tristan Hopper, Steve Lafleur, senior policy analyst with the Fraser Institute, and Chris Spocks, founder of the nonprofit Housing Matters. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Mr. Hopper, I'd like to start with you. You recently wrote in the National Post that the number one reason housing is so expensive in Canada is zoning laws. Can you explain what you mean?
Yeah, basically. So we have a severely constrained supply of housing in Canada. So if you look at the rest of the G7 and you look at just units of housing per capita, we're by far the lowest of any other country in the G7. In fact, if we were to get to the level of the next lowest, which is the UK, we would have to build 250,000 units of housing just to get to the UK level. And if you look at the city of Vancouver, that's roughly the amount of homes in the entire city of Vancouver. So we're really, really behind on building homes. And one of the main reasons for that is anybody who's ever, redeveloped a home or looked to expand a home or built a home, basically every jurisdiction in Canada makes it a huge pain in the butt to do that. There's basically a lattice work of zoning laws, which make it difficult to create new builds in Canada, and that constrains the supply, which drives up the price. So the argument I made in the National Post was, if you took any other sector of the economy and did this, you would have a similar effect. So cars, we've got 2 million cars sold in Canada per year. If you had a bunch of government regulations which limited that to 1 million cars per year, your Ford Fiesta would be, rising 20% per year, just like, your average Vancouver crack shack.
So, Mr. Lafleur, what's your take? Do you think it's zoning laws that's the main driver for housing and affordability, or is there something else at play here as well?
Well, just from a 36,000 foot level, the GTA and the Greater Vancouver area of the Lower Mainland both have this dual squeeze happening, where not only are we constraining outward expansion, so there's the agricultural land reserve in Vancouver, and there's the Green Belt in Toronto, but we also are preventing upward development as well of all kinds. So, people like to point to all the large condo buildings going up and say, we've got a condo, what's the problem? Obviously, it's just foreign investors driving the prices. The reality is, this is a small part of the city that's really getting developed. They're maximizing the amount they can build on these small parcels. But really, when you look at most of the city, it's detached houses. It's mostly only zoned for single detached houses. So obviously, for pros and cons to, allowing more sprawl, et cetera. But from a 36,000 foot perspective, you have to build somewhere, and we're just not building enough.
So, Mr. Spocks, what's your take? What do you think is the main driver of unaffordability in Canada?
Yeah, well, I think there are two big things, right? So prices are a function of supply and demand. So on the demand side, a lot of people move to Canada, and I think we generally kind of like that. We like that people want to move to Canada, and within Canada, people move to our cities. Within our cities, the points that Tristan and Steve made is that we're not allowing for enough housing to be built. So on one hand, we have a lot of demand for housing. On the other hand, we're constraining the supply of housing. And that just like the basic economics of that is that prices rise.
I want to touch, when we come back from the next commercial break, on the issue that Steve mentioned of foreign investment, because I think in some cities, Vancouver and Toronto in particular, we have a lot of policymakers who are saying that is the main driver of unaffordability, and they're implementing a number of policies. Ontario and Vancouver have both implemented policies to address this foreign investment in those city markets, in those provincial markets as well.